Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Rabbi Paltiel, for this incredible website. I especially enjoy the daily Hayomim section. I was wondering the following question. Where does the avodah of Chassidus apply practically for a woman when most of the day she's dealing with very seemingly mundane Gashmias things and doesn't seem to have time for real avodah to internalize Chassidus? If in order to internalize Chassidus one needs to do his bananus and learn a lot, then how does this apply practically to a woman? Does Hashem mainly want us to focus on building a frum home with the Rebbe's view and Darkei Chassidus? For example, most of the Chassidish stories that talk about these things, going Tishrei by the Rebbe, Yechidus, Avedis Atfilis, Bonanos, Iskafia, Avedis Atmidis, Fabrenga, etc., are usually about men doing this avodah. How can a woman be excited about Avedis Hashem if she doesn't seem to have time for davening properly or learning Chassidus in a focused, deep way? We see that Rebbe always spoke to Bachim about avodah pnimis and learning. Why didn't the Rebbe establish Tamchei Temimim for girls? What is the avodah of high school, seminary, and post-seminary in terms of Chassidus? Another interrelated question would be how to relate to Gashmias in a way that one doesn't get bogged down by it. What is the Rebbe's view? Thank you so much for this opportunity to ask, and thank you for this amazing website which really makes it so accessible to learn Chassidus. Baruch Hashem. Okay, hello, Rebbetzin. Wow, that is an awful lot. Okay, I read the whole question. Now I'm going to go back and read parts of it. Okay, but before I do, I just want to make a statement. There's a couple of things you need to understand. And the first thing is this. I'm going to say something radical that is or isn't true. In other words, I'm not saying that I necessarily believe this. Women today are different than women in the past. And there's two primary reasons. The first is women learn. In America, lyhadus $11 in the public schools, there's no difference between boys' education and girls' education. Girls don't sit at home. And therefore, in our community, in the Frum community, the Jewish community, girls go to school just like boys do and they learn. That's number one. And then there's number two. People talk about women's liberation and revolution and changing the world and making women equal to men, all those other things, right? It's been said by a lot of wise people that 80% of women's liberation is due to the washing machine and to the dishwasher and to the refrigerator and to packaged food. In other words, women today have more time. And it's because of these two factors, the fact that women go to school just like boys do, and that women have more time, that the questions you're asking are currently issues, and they were not in the past. Let me add a third very critical point, and that is, al pi derech hateva, longevity is extended significantly. People grow up, get married, have children, raise children, and have a life after that, which are luxuries that our ancestors did not enjoy. If you put those three things together, you'll understand why the spirit of your question is, why weren't women talking to in the past the way they talk to now is because it's a different world. It's a different world in terms of physical health. It's a different world in terms of women's time availability. It's a different world in terms of women's learning. Bichlal, we believe, I was created to serve my Maker, which means man and woman doesn't really enjoy the luxury of spending hours and hours davening every day. It's a rare person, it's the exceptional person who davens all day long. Most people, once they leave school, work. Some people are shluchim, some people are malamdim, some people are professionals, some people are business people. No one has a lot of time on a daily basis. So we work our avodas Hashem into our lives. Or to say it differently, when our avodas Hashem is part of real living, then it's really serving Hashem. In other words, a yeshiva bachar, a yeshiva girl, who has all day and all night to learn and to think, it's a luxury. And it's really training. It's not life. Life is not spending days and nights learning and davening. There is such an avodah, but from the model of Chassidus, it's an avodah for Yechidei Skula. You know, in the Litvische world, in the Misnagdische world, it's a normally accepted practice that men get married and they learn for years after their wedding, supported by their wives. What does Chassidus believe about that idea? And I think the answer to that question is, first of all, today, Lubavitch is dominated by what I like to call pikuach nefesh and mesiras nefesh. The Jewish world is at a crossroads where millions of Jews stand to be lost forever. And the one thing that stands between them and certain assimilation is Lubavitch. That's our focus, and it's more important than anything else. It's more important than Limud HaTorah. It's Pikuach Nefesh Mamish. This is the philosophy of Lubavitch. But even in the olden days, there were Chassidim who learned and davened all day and all night. There were Chassidim who had that opportunity, but they were the exceptions. They were not the rule. The typical Lubavitcher Chassid had a life. He worked hard, and he found time here and there and everywhere to engage in learning and engage in Avodah Pnimis. You have to appreciate that context to your question, which means our material lives are not holding us back from Avodas Hashem. It is Avodas Hashem. For a man, it's mostly parnasa. For a woman, it's her home and her family, although today many women are working outside their home, in addition to looking after their homes, and many men are therefore also much more involved in helping their wives in their homes because their women work outside the home. That is not stopping me from avoida. That is avoida. It's a different kind of avoida. It's not as spiritual, it's not as pure, it's not as obviously spiritual and holy, but it's more important, and it gives the Eibishter more nachas. It's dide b'tachtonim. And I think it's critical for you to look at your own life in that way. In other words, a woman's life is not mundane. A woman's life is doing the single most important thing in the world, which is create the next generation of Jewish people. There is nothing holier than that. When we talk about the women in Mitzrayim, going out to their husbands in the fields and using the copper mirrors to bring the next generation of Jewish people into the world, that's considered the holiest thing in the world. Davening and learning feels holier, especially if you're the kind of person who likes to engage in that kind of thing. But when you daven and learn without the context of life, it's not real Avodas Hashem. It's Avodas Hashem like Avodas Hashem in Gan Eden. Avodas Hashem in the real world is in the framework of our regular living. Now I'm going to stop this question at this point, and I'm going to address the individual points that you made in my next segments.